Great. Yes. Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you all for making it tonight. We have had a number of apologies for absence, so those were...
The apologies are from Councillor Stagg, Councillor Glenn, Councillor Fuller, Councillor Clark, Councillor N. Oakes and Councillor S. Oakes.
So we're happy to accept those apologies for absence. And then moving on then to declarations of interest. Can I ask anyone to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, any other interests, or gifts on hospitality or inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered?
Do we just stamp the statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Me too. The expression goes.
Okay. Okay, then moving on, then the proposition is to approve and sign the minutes of the full council meeting held on 19th of February as an accurate record. So, again, if no one's got any clarifications or questions, I shall ask someone to propose and second those. Councillor Robinson.
No second.
No second? Okay. Councillor Humphreys. Right. Okay, those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, all right. I'm not...
Just swapping meetings.
Okay, not going too fast for you. Okay, great. Okay, and the next one is to approve and sign the minutes of the Neighbourhood Plan full council meeting held 5th of March. And again, is that a proposal or a question? Yeah. It's a proposal. Councillor Freeman. Yeah, second for Councillor Chester. In favour? Okay, thank you. Okay, and then public participation. So we have a number of members of the public. Do they want to participate?
I would like to say a few words about the neighbourhood plan.
Okay.
You have to excuse me, I'm a bit croaky this evening, so bear with me. I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the residents of the Ashton Manor estate. A number of us, including myself, went to the local plan meeting in Frapston on the 18th of February. Mm-hmm. And I guess we were hoping for some feedback on the issues that were raised in the meeting. And it's disappointing that we haven't actually received any formal response to the issues that were raised there yet. Following on that, people are concerned if you look at the number of inputs that were received against the local plan stage. Then for the St. Christopher's Drive side, they were the highest. And I think historically the same is true on the neighbourhood plan. And the latest information that's coming through really just reinforces the view that the developer of that site is pressing ahead with what don't look like good solutions for the issues, and without what looks like a sense of accountability for the consequences for Arundel and the residents themselves. I mean, if I get specific, if you look at the traffic and emergency vehicle access, which has always been at the forefront along Ashton Road and East Road, then the developer's proposal is widen Ashton Road and extend down the right of way and create road access down there. And my appeal would be, please go down and have a look at what that actually means, because they're going to have to take down quite a few trees, including mature trees, right down into the right of way. So from an environmental point of view, it doesn't look like a good solution. and it's going to expose that view of the industrial estate, which is not pretty, and it also spoils that amenity of the bridleway, which gets used a lot by walkers, locals and visitors. And in the end, to be honest, most of the access is going to stay as a single road. So the dual access really doesn't solve, that problem is not resolved either for emergency vehicles or for the traffic. And more people, I would say, are going to be affected by the traffic flow that will increase around that area, along East Road, than any of the other sites that I can see in the neighbourhood plan. We know the site has a high risk of flooding. If you look at the National Planning Policy Framework, and I'm just quoting one line out of it, it says development should not be permitted if there are reasonably available sites in areas with a lower probability of flooding. And this area has a high risk of surface flooding. And most of the site falls within that famous high risk 100-metre band either side of the A605. So it's above the WHO recommended noise guidelines. And what we're hearing is the developer's solution is to build, like Trump, build a big wall all along the tree line and up the bridleway by the 605, and to ask people to close their windows. So, all in all, it does not seem like a good set of solutions for this particular site. And what we can see is the developer is really making no contribution to the town's needs for green spaces or amenities. They're now pressing for about 100 houses, and it just dials up the risk that they're going to leave us with a legacy of problems in traffic and sewerage and lost amenities. What are we going to do about it? I think the neighbourhood plan is a really good initiative, and applause to everybody who's put a lot of time and effort into it. The only thing I would say is it currently doesn't look like it really discourages the kind of behaviour we're seeing. And I think many people would like to see a stand on this development and remove that site from the plan if possible. So I know the public can't be part of your session later on this evening, understand that fully, but if you as Angle town members can actually take into account the views that have been expressed in writing this evening, it would be very, very much appreciated.
Okay. All right, thank you for your contribution. I'm sure you'll have seen there's an agenda item later on where we're going to hopefully approve or potentially approve a letter to ENC to complain about the fact that we haven't had responses to the points that have been made. So, I mean, I think many of the points that you made were also made by Angle Town Council, and the criticism is that we haven't had any meaningful response to those yet. So, I think we share your frustrations to some extent, to a large extent. We share your frustrations that ENC have not actually responded to the points that have been made.
Thank you.
Okay. Fine. Have we had any other considerations?
No.
Requests for interested parties? No. Okay, fine. The next item is Mayor's report, which is going to be extremely brief. I haven't really got much to tell you. I did attend a meeting which is described in Emma's report, but other than that, it's been really the routine council meeting. So I'm nothing extra really, I think, to tell you about. We have got a district councillor with us. Is he going to report anything? Or?
I think not.
No? Okay.
Because I see the district council's report is down there later on. I haven't got a lot to say, but there's a few things, and I'll open there if I may.
Okay. Fine. In that case, then, the next item is Town Matters. So we're just receiving the latest fact sheet from Northamptonshire Highways, which they've updated to include all the spans, I think is the main change, isn't it? We've also, the next item, if we're happy with that, and we're just receiving it, next item is to consider the email from the concerned resident regarding issues relating to traffic lights on the A605. I think obviously we need to respond, but I think all we can really say is what I think we're all aware of, is that the work needs to be done to facilitate not just the traffic lights for purposes of controlling traffic whilst the bridge is out, but also, as I understand it, that work was already scheduled anyway for broadband cable installations. So it's not something that's in our control. Yes, it's frustrating and it's disruptive, but it's short term and it will all be over very, very soon now. So are we happy to say that that's what we'll do, is send a letter to that effect, and our commiserations, but hopefully it's not going to be much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah? Again, the next one is to receive notification that house-to-house collections for Christian Aid Week will take place in Arundel between 13th and 19th of May. So again, I don't think that need to do anything. Is that something we'll put in any appropriate communications as that we send out?
Yeah.
Next one was an interesting one, I thought, was just to consider two proposals from a resident regarding resiting a refuge on the A605 and extending the 40-mile-per-hour speed limit on the A605.
So this one's come in via myself. It's one of my neighbours put forward the request to, and I'd asked Emma, how do we get it into the system? So apologies, it's a bit later than he intended, but his request is quite sensible. We have a footpath which goes across the A605, and for some reason they constructed the pedestrian refuge further up the road than where the footpath is. So his request was, can we have the thing put where people cross the road, or a sensible path to the refuge? So you're going across the lumpy ground at the moment. And he also, in the same question, asked whether we could extend the 40-mile-an-hour zone from the Anvil roundabout up beyond the industrial estate. And that for two reasons: first, road safety for the cars turning into the industrial estate, but more so because of pedestrians trying to get across the road at that point. And it is a very dangerous place to try and get across the road. So I understand his idea of what he's doing, but I don't know how we proceed with it.
On the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, we did actually talk to NCC Highways about reducing the 40-mile-an-hour, reducing the speed limit to 40-mile-an-hour when they were going to put the temporary lights in.
Yep.
And that we were hoping was going to happen. But they told us, and I can't honestly remember the exact wording, but there was something to do with the way that the speed limits are done, and they couldn't reduce it without a certain act or something else like that. I can't remember. As I say, I would say you've got to look at it in more detail. But I do remember we getting an email, and because we did talk about this earlier, didn't we? And
So
when we're dealing with the North Bridge.
So I think it's bigger if Arundel Town Council put forward the suggestion rather than the resident.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who does use... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, whenever we do anything like this, what I normally do is contact Sarah Barnwell, and she'll come out, she'll assess,
Okay, right.
possibly meet the resident if they want to go, and maybe myself and any of the councillors to have a look, and then obviously she goes away to see if it can be done. Generally, it can be done, but it's whether they've got any money, which is quite often the issue.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who does use that footpath, and I'm well aware of what it looks like and what it feels like across the road when cars are hammering down at least 60 miles an hour on you, then I think it's a very sensible suggestion. But so, do we need a resolution, or are we just happy to ask the clerk to look into that further?
It certainly needs to be revisited. That's for sure.
I mean, hopefully, I say the chances of that. I mean, whilst NCC's current financial state persists, it's probably limited, but we should keep asking, shouldn't we? Particularly once we've got an authority with maybe got a budget that can make fit their means. Okay, so the next item is to consider and agree the content for the annual town meeting on the 24th of April. So there wasn't a proposal for this, was there? No,
No, but it's just that I just thought this is, well, we've got this meeting plus our next meeting, which is about a week before, whatever. So I think we should at least start thinking about what sort of things.
I mean, there's so much stuff we could put on. I guess it's, to some extent, the question is how much we want to do. I mean, for instance, on Neighbourhood plan and the bridge, I would suggest that we don't necessarily need a massive amount of time dedicated to those, given where we are. I don't know if other councillors agree, but we touch on them, remind people they're ongoing. But we had a public meeting not very long ago. The town bridge will be well underway by then. So I would suggest we concentrate on.
Well, it's whether you want to go with the format that I've seen for the last couple of years, which is where you start with the mayor, then you have planning report, estates report, finance report.
I think I'd like to make it a little bit more brief in many of those areas, less council-y. I think I'd like to make it a bit more. I'd like some other councillors to deliver some of the content rather than it just being me. I think if we think about the way that the public meeting in November went, it went very well, where we had relatively short presentations and then lots of opportunity for people to discuss. So I would suggest we try to do that rather than
Have it like a council meeting.
death by PowerPoint or by like a council meeting.
Yeah, so I'm all in favour of that, that we don't need each of the committees reporting.
Councillor Chapel.
I tend to agree we don't need each of the committees reporting, partially because that will get me off the hook from doing one from planning. but more seriously, finance we definitely need to spend some time talking about.
No.
Not least because earlier this evening, wearing a slightly different hat, we had quite a significant debate about a key asset in the town. And it's legitimate to talk about it, even though it's not a trust meeting, because the town council provides a balancing grant to the QBH. So it's reasonable enough to point out that we do, to point out that we keep these things under review, etc. To try and get a certain amount of feedback on that. I have to say I disagree with the Mayor about the neighbourhood plan. The situation is so different now to how it was the last time we had a public meeting in which we discussed the neighbourhood plan that I think we are going to have to say something to update people, because otherwise their mindset will be as it was back in November, and the world's moved on a fair bit since then. So I actually think that the neighbourhood plan is going to have to be a relatively significant part of what we do.
I support that. I think we might have to
I do think that it's nice if we can get one or two local organisations involved. Oh, I preempted you, Council.
Well, because it's the town's meeting, it's not the council's
Exactly
meeting.
so. Now, I mean, there's two ways of doing that. We can have people speak, but we can also afford the opportunity to them to have displays within the building. I have to say, I think that works slightly less well, probably, in the church than it would have done had we done it in the QBH, which, rather like Councillor Chester, I think, although there are some issues with the QBH, personally I would rather have had the meeting there, but I can see why we decided to run it in the church. And I think one thing we could very justifiably ask the public is, many of them will have been to both venues, where do you think it is best held?
It occurs to me that people might want to know a bit about the unitary authority set up and when things are going to happen.
Good guess. Very good point. Yeah.
And
Quite what we know.
also get their views on what sort of things they would like money spent on, or what sort of things they like in the town. Like, do they like to see all the nice manicured grass, and is that where they would like us to concentrate? You might get good feedback.
Well, it could be, as we spoke a couple of meetings ago, it could be the time to actually offer this idea of where does the town want the town to be? What do we want the town to look like in the future? With all the developments that are happening on the neighbourhood plan, which everyone will be informed of, hopefully, will have some sort of resolution as it moves, snakes its way along the ground. But it might be an opportunity to say, this is the next stage. What town do you want? Do you want it with wildflower meadows instead of grass? Do you want how do you How do you see your town? How does the future of it look? Just very short.
I think you
You
get
could,
one
you
or
could
two
lead that
people.
discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could quite happily. I would happily do that.
I think you might get one or two, or more than one or two people complaining about the extraordinary increase in council tax this year.
There's been quite a discussion on that on social media.
Well, we should be prepared for it, certainly. I mean, of course,
I don't
it's
think
not,
we
it's
need
not
to
driven
have
by
some-
only town council, of course,
No, no.
it's driven by others. But,
Or by East Northants, because the
No.
national, yeah.
no, it was police and,
Yeah.
and
NCC.
NCC,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Which suggests that actually, bearing in mind that we never see police at our meetings anymore, which I think is very sad, I do think that it would be useful if they came to the town meeting and explained why they need such a large extra amount of money, how's it going to be spent, how's it going to benefit Oundle.
They usually come.
They
Yeah,
do
they
usually,
normally come to the
usually
annual.
speak.
Yeah, we need to get a sergeant at least, don't we?
They used to usually come here as well, but I haven't seen them right
Yeah,
now,
but
nor get any kind of feedback. I mean, we don't even get any kind of written reports fed in by the police anymore, so that two-way communication has come to an end.
So just on that point there, about where we're going and what we're doing, so the vision for Oundle we've talked about in our last meeting here, but the other party we mentioned at that time was Transition Oundle, and the role that they are playing in the town, the vision of the town for the future. So I think it would be good to give them, a platform for the event. But also, thinking of the event and the size of St. Peter's, it does lend itself to putting up these stalls around the outside, and especially if we did like the teas and coffees, and didn't have a sort of dead stop at the end of the evening when everybody goes out, just have the teas and coffees and stalls and chats, so we, the council, can talk to people at the end of it. So that means that the time of the formal part of the meeting we can use for some of the big hitters. And as David said before, neighbourhood plan is one of the biggest issues, and I'm afraid we do have to talk about it, because we're moving into a much more difficult situation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to suggest we wouldn't mention
No,
it.
it's just how much time we need to.
It's just, how much new information have we got? What can we, how do we package it in a easily digested format that isn't going to have the people who are living and breathing it bored out of their skins, and the people who are maybe not quite so engaged equally
I think
disengaged.
by the time April comes, we might have a clear understanding of where the neighbourhood plan is at.
Yeah.
And in relation to a local plan as well.
Yeah, it's the second part. But we need to stay in control, don't we, of that formal part of the meeting.
Yes.
So just, I know last time we did give a bit too much time to some of the conversation groups.
Yeah.
And so it said, get the agenda, control of the agenda, and then make the outside facility available.
Yeah, what I don't really want to do is to get into an ongoing debate about the pros and cons of the local plan, the neighbour plan. The people who are passionate about it, including some members of the public, know all about that. They know what Oundle Town Council said about it. I don't really think, given time constraints and everything else that we've just put on our 8-point agenda that we've got, we don't want to be spending more than 10-20 minutes on each of those topics, really, do we?
I think also, in regard to the neighbourhood plan, as we had a vote for the last meeting, I think it might be a good idea to have another vote on what the neighbourhood plan looks like in the future.
It does kind of depend a little bit on where we are at that point, doesn't it, really? Because we haven't got a view, we haven't got consensus but amongst ourselves yet, have we?
Not yet.
No, so I hope we get there. But so just in terms of sorting out the agenda then.
So organisations, you really just want them to just be displaying stuff?
Yeah, it'd be lovely to invite them around and let them have a stall there. And also when we're booking St. Peter's, if we can book the teas and coffees part of it, it would certainly make the event much more friendly. I just hate the end of our events, where everybody just gets up and walks out. It would be
I
good
quite like that.
but it would be good for us to be able to talk, casually to people on different subjects afterwards.
Well, why don't you limit your actual presentation a bit for 45 minutes, and you don't no more than that, and then 45 minutes for people to have a look round. Because 45 minutes is about enough that most people can
Yeah, I mean,
bear to listen
absolutely,
to.
yeah.
I think one of the most important things from perhaps your perspective is that it needs to be chaired effectively and efficiently, because my experience of it, except for the St Peter's one, of course, which was a full involvement and actually had a life in it, before the attendance at an elongated whinge session. And that's, people are, it's a time to have a whinge, yes, but if it's not controlled, it just goes on and on and on.
Okay, all right, well, I mean, as Emma's pointed out, you know, we haven't got that much time, so probably it probably falls to me to come up with a draft agenda and to perhaps ask some of you to consider what you can contribute to it, yeah?
Any ideas for organisations, just to let me know, because obviously if I ask all of them,
What about Heartstart?
we'll have loads.
Yeah.
But if there's any in particular that you want me to ask.
Well, I think the Head Start people, you know, the people that came in, Heartstart, that's it.
Well, could they be the ones that have their little stalls around the edge?
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what she's saying.
yeah. No, I think that's important. They're not actually actively saying anything, they're just there for people to investigate afterwards.
Yeah.
One of the other things...
And the Annual Festival, of course, should be there, shouldn't they? This is in the middle of it.
At least invite them.
Sorry?
At least invite them.
One of the other things that's on our agenda tonight, of course, and is a hot topic within the town, is Flettonfield.
Yeah.
And again, we probably ought to invite somebody to give us an update on where we are as at then, which will probably be different to where we are even tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's plenty there, then, I think.
Yeah. Okay. The next item is indeed Flettonfield, so we're just receiving the update, but you would have seen that in your pack.
Yeah, these are just the emails that I've sent. I thought perhaps Christina might be able to make it tonight, but obviously she hasn't, because she's actually sort of tried to get a bit more information, because we weren't quite sure. The first email that I got just seemed as if I was just being given it for information.
Yeah.
Having said that, it appears that there's a fresh consultation period. Clearly this council ought to respond. There's no reason why the response can't be exactly the same response as we gave before.
I think our responses are going to go forward again. I will double check, but that's what Christina told me.
I mean, I was thinking as an individual I made a response previously, and if I have to go and make the same response, I will, but it means I'm going to have to trawl my computer to try and work out where this response now is, because it's there somewhere.
I'll double check it, but when I spoke to Christina, she said that they'd said that they would put our consultation response in again.
Perhaps when you found out, if you could let all councillors know, because we might want to put in individual ones. Again, if we have to, and for those who didn't put one in the first place, people might want to do that.
I think it emphasises the fact as well that it's important to keep it in the NP.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have to confess I read all the documents and I couldn't understand what I was reading.
Well, it's
Well,
just...
I know.
Oh, thank you. Don't feel quite so bad now. But it's so complex on the technicalities in there.
It does seem increasingly likely that they are going to run out of time in terms of disposing of it, doesn't it? And that we will be into a whole new round come the summer of what the hell we're going to do with it, or what the hell's going to happen to it.
Just on that time, at the local Oundle Area Council's meeting, Sian Matthews, I think, did you ask the question about, was there a time limit?
Yes,
And
yes.
she said that there's no time limit on what the county council can do with their assets, so they can sell them right up until the 31st of March, I suppose.
Well, no, I think what she said was that that there was something going on in Parliament that was going to take place before the summer recess.
Oh, and that was going to be the...
Yeah, so that was the cut-off. They couldn't dispose of assets after that point. So the reason I asked the question was that if NCC dispose of it now, all their revenue from it goes to gets split between the two halves of Northampton. If they dispose of it after the unitary authorities come back, obviously the money stays with our half of what's left. and the answer to that question came back. It was they were going to put something to the Parliament before the parliamentary recess. After that date, they can't dispose of anything, you know, just to stop bad behaviour and you know, when you can see the doors closing.
Okay. Okay. So we'll move on then to Clerk's report, which again is in your pack, and we're just receiving it. So busy month, load of things. Plenty on there. And also we're receiving notes from the Oundle Area Local Councils meeting held 26th of February. So again, just for, if there's no questions on that. And then the next item is to approve financial regulations as recommended by the Finance and General Purposes Committee. So
yeah, these were the ones that we had at the February finance meeting. I think with regards to financial regulations, we only changed a couple of items, adding in the finance officer a couple of times, I think. But with all of them, it was a view that we would approve them, but then subject to, once we change bank account, we may have to review it again.
Yeah. So if people have had a chance to look at those, as I say, it's very minor changes really that we've got there. If we're happy, can I have a proposal? Apple, Councillor Robinson, in favour? Are you in favour? Yeah, that was unanimous, yeah. It's okay. And then the next item is to approve the OTC Financial Management Risk Assessment as reviewed by the Finance and General Purposes Committee. And again, you know, this is a pre-existing document.
Yeah, and I think there was I just took one small item out of that. I think there was a date on it, 2017-18, the change of internal auditor. Yeah.
So again, they were reviewed. I mean, a number of us were at the Finance Committee meeting. It was reviewed at that meeting, and we were happy to propose them for approval at this meeting. So again, Councillor Chapel, Councillor Robinson, and yeah, we're all happy with that. And then the next item, again, similar item really, again, internal control policy, and remind me, I think again this was not a new document, was it? This was...
yeah, we just added in, we changed the item that to two councillors who are not check signatories. I think before that we've got head of finance and deputy head of finance, but we now have two councillors that verify the accounts every quarter. And the one point above, it said the clerk will be the responsible financial officer and will, along with the finance officer, administer the accounts.
So again, it was really just to amend the policy to reflect what we're actually doing, having agreed those changes in the past. So
continuity.
As well. Councillor Robinson. Is everyone okay? Yeah, okay, we're all okay with that. Okay. Right, the next item is to agree attendance to the focus meeting of Devolution Hall, the focus meeting on devolution at Saxon Hall in Rons next week. It's next Thursday, yes, next Thursday, yeah. I'm on holiday next Thursday, so I won't be going. If anyone else would like to get the opportunity to learn more about what our new unit of the authority might look like, then it's a great opportunity.
I don't want to go.
Yeah. So Clark will go. Any councillors wishing to attend?
I'm on holiday as well.
So I think you'll be on your own now.
Okay, I'll write a little
Where's Tone, eh?
He's keeping very quiet.
I'll put us down for all sorts of things.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, happy with that. Right. Okay, moving on then to financial matters. So we need to... Oh, sorry.
We missed one.
Did we miss one?
Oh, yeah.
So we have. Sorry about that, David. So, to discuss the recent E&C Town and Parish Council briefing, boundary review, government consultation and structural change order. Yes.
The reason I asked to put it on as much as anything else is the last time that we had an issue around parish boundary reviews, we managed to inadvertently upset Ashton, Stoke, Doyle, Blackthorn, and just about everybody under the sun. I actually still think that what we were proposing then was right, but what I would suggest is that as a council we should be meeting with our counterparts on other parishes. Might cause me a certain amount of fun and games wearing dual hats. In order to discuss these issues, there are some very live issues, frankly. There are some very obvious ones around the parish boundary between Blackthorn and Randall. There remains the vexed question of Laxton Drive, which is in Ashton, but nobody actually, except the parish or meeting in Ashton, thinks that it's in Ashton. There are issues around the marina area, etc., etc. We should be talking to our counterparts to see if there is any scope for any common ground in our approach to these matters. And I think we should probably set up some meetings sooner rather than later, because this is going to become a live subject. And I am already aware that there has been an indication from a neighbouring parish that they are very concerned about what what Oundle is going to do in relation to a parish boundary review. So it's already causing concern. So the sooner we start talking to these people, the better.
I would second that, David. I mean, I've actually looked, and I can't see any reasonable reason why we haven't got a boundary along the A605.
I think in terms of controversial ones, it's the marina and the Barnwell Park, which is, to my mind, the biggest issue. In terms of the development, the old station development there, they're not. It's not growing. It's not going anywhere. The only issue is, who do they pay their precept to? But the marina and the Barnwell Park is definitely attached to Oundle. It's not attached to Barnwell, and therefore we have more interest in that particular piece of development, and what happens to it.
And we work a lot more harder for it as well.
Yeah.
The way I looked at the boundary, I looked at the A605 being the boundary line through to Elmington and down as far as Barnwell. So anything that side belongs to Elmington.
Okay.
I'll be honest, when I read the document, it wasn't clear to me what the scope of any boundary review would be. Because is it a parish boundary review, or is it every boundary, or is it more? Because it talks about the west and north Hants, and well, that's what it says, isn't it? It's very little in the document. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't quite sure whether the scope of that review would include parish boundaries.
I'm not entirely sure, but on the basis that it was sent out to town and parish councils, it kind of made me suspect that the answer is yes, it would. I mean, I suppose we can contact David Oliver and find out more about what he can tell us about it.
The last paragraph says we're preparing representations on the detail required to create 2 new authorities. All 8 councils are meeting over the next fortnight to discuss and agree the content of the structural change order. I guess where I was is it wasn't really clear to me what the scope of it was and what that affected. Although, having said that, I do agree that there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be trying to have constructive discussions with neighbouring parishes.
There is going to be a review, even if it's not this review, there'll be a review sooner rather than later. And last time what happened was that we suddenly found that we were required to put in a response and it wasn't the time to consult, so we put in a response and, as I say, caused a certain amount of acrimony.
It's never been forgiven.
I've heard many people from other parishes talk about it since.
But I'm just going to say one thing. I think it's naive to think we should take over the only assets, for instance, that Barnwell's got, because they happen to be nearer to the edge of their boundary than you'd like to think. I mean, it's the development of the boatyard, for instance, is probably going to bring money into Barnwell. And I would, if I was in Barnwell, I might think twice about giving away the only asset we've got.
I'm sure they wouldn't like to give it away.
Well, it's not draining us, it's not causing any problems for us, it's not
Well, surely
a
it
huge
is.
weight on our shoulders, is it?
Well, no, it's attached to our town. You know,
It
that's
will
the
be.
issue.
Yeah.
But you're always going to have,
Mighty.
you're always
2
going to have,
cars in every flat.
The
There's a
development
lot
there will
of-
impact far more on this town than it will on the village.
Yeah, but at the moment it doesn't, that's what I'm trying to
It doesn't, but then we're looking prospectively forward.
Yeah.
And again, we want to look at it from the other side of things. That country park would be way beyond the ability of Barnwell Parish to maintain it if those who are currently responsible for it cease to want to know. If any council could intervene, it would be this one. Whether we would want to, whether we could afford to, is another issue, but it is very, very well used by people from Oundle. And as there are far more people in Oundle than there are people in Barnwell, far more Oundle people use it than Barnwell people. And I, for one, would certainly want to explore every avenue to keep it open if there was a threat to it.
So I think that discussion says we need to spend more time on this issue, don't we? You know, we've been given the warning that it's up for review. Let's find some time to talk about it, and you know, just talk about it within ourselves first, what we want, and then you know, with the parishes before we upset them. No, I mean that genuinely. That we're not going to do this without upsetting somebody, but it's far better if you do it openly and say this is what you're thinking of, than just to come out in a document.
In terms of where it might sit, because it doesn't sit very easily other than doing it in full council, but if it sits anywhere it's probably planning. Would people be happy enough for planning to discuss it and then bring something back to full council in due course?
Yeah.
Because if so, are the rents put it on
Yeah.
a planning agenda?
I think so.
Yeah, and you can invite any other councillor who wants to come to planning to come to that meeting.
Yeah.
We're always happy to have councillors attend.
Yeah. So you know, just it's going to be the
Do you
agenda
want to
item
go
there.
on to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Strike whilst the iron's on.
Okay. Sorry about that for nearly skipping that very, very important agenda item. But no, that's good. That makes sense. I think we're happy with that. Next item, no, so moving on then to financial matters. The next item is to approve the bank reconciliation balance sheet budget report and hub trading account for February. So again, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, I don't think there was anything really that's jumped out at me. It's nothing, no exceptional items as far as I was aware. The position looks okay. We still look to be on track for a reasonably good budget surplus at the end of the year. With only 1 month to go now. So if anyone's got any specific items they want to raise, do so now. Otherwise, I shall ask you to propose and second and approve. That's a proposal?
Yes,
That's a second. Okay, and is everyone happy? Yeah, so we've all seen those and approved those. Okay. And similarly, the payments for February, again, I mean, nothing jumped out at me. It all looked fairly...
You have taken out from them to do some
all looked fairly normal stuff.
file.
So again, if there's anyone who wants to query any of the items or seek any clarifications, if not, once again, can we have a proposer and a seconder? So proposer is Councillor Robinson, seconder Councillor Peel. And if we could indicate we're all in favour, we're all in favour of that. Thank you very much. And then the next item is the new debit card for our town council marketing account. So I think Clerk's already told us we've had one in the past. Yeah, she's already told us that.
I'd make sure that we get it formally approved.
So again, just to formally approve that we're happy to do that. So again, I'll ask for a proposer and a seconder. I think that was Humphreys followed by Peel. then if we're all happy to do that, then we'll say that's done. Okay, great. Now then, next item is the letter. So you will have all seen, I assume you've all read, the letter that we have drafted to send to the chairman of the ENC Planning Policy Committee, which basically is to register our displeasure or to complain about the fact that the issues that we've raised regarding the local plan have not been materially addressed. I mean, we've had responses obviously, but there's been no attempt to engage with the council to find any sort of middle ground, and we feel that our views are not being given proper regard. So I am sure that everyone's had a chance to read this, and I'm sure that everyone's pored over it and decided whether they're happy with it or not. So
Well, I drafted it, so I'm going to propose that we send it, subject to any views.
Seconded.
Councillor Robinson seconded it. So can I suppose in favour? And that's unanimous. Okay, so I think it's headed from the clerk or the mayor. I mean, I'm happy to sign it as mayor if that's, how you think it's appropriate.
Yeah,
it should come from.
Put it on headed paper.
Yeah.
And then put.
I'll pop in to sign it if you. Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Can I make a suggestion? The the chairman of the ENC Planning is a member.
Yeah.
He's one of us. It's not writing to me.
Yeah.
I suggest you copy it at least to John as the executive director, because she's a paid service lady. What has to come up with the answers?
Yeah. I think we probably would have done that anyway, but yeah.
I think you should copy Tom Fullsloven as well.
Well, just be careful. I think just on the point there that Phil raises, we've got a letter that we're addressing to David as chair. And whether or not we should be then copying everybody else on the letter to David. I would have sent it to David in the first instance. Yeah. And then he will obviously be able to copy it to Sean and other people. But I want to make sure that communication is to that head of the Planning Policy Committee, not to the civil servant.
But also we need to have some reassurance of some timely response to the letter, because this is the thing we come up against time and time again, is when we send letters in, we get very tardy responses to these sorts of things. So as an adjunct to that would be, if we do copy in a paid civil servant, they are duty bound to respond to these letters rather than...
And that's the problem I've got. The letter is to David, and therefore David is to respond to it.
That's what I think, because if you get copied in on things, normally you're just being copied in, and the person who's going to should be
what you do. I mean, I don't think it would just be CC and just send literally a copy. There'd have to be a covering letter that was designed specifically for Sian to make her aware of the terms of the letter that have been sent, bearing in mind the comments that are made about the way in which ENC as a corporate body has dealt with it. And I'd be perfectly happy for us to do that, because it does avoid the potential risk that the councillor to whom this is sent, for whatever reason of his own, doesn't actually do anything with it. And that would be rather sad. So if we send it to her with the right kind of covering letter, then perhaps it will force a response formally out of her, which I think is what Councillor Stern is suggesting might be appropriate.
I think that's a necessity.
Okay. So do that. Yeah. Okay. The next item is to approve the expenditure for additional work on the sustainability proposals for redrafting the neighbourhood plan. Again, a number of you were at the meeting we held with our planning consultant. At that meeting, it was felt appropriate to do some further work on sustainability proposals and to assist our site selection process, basically, wasn't it? So, Councillor Peel, were you looking to add anything?
Well, it's just, I mean, obviously, I'm going to do a little presentation when the recorder's off about the meeting we had and what I foresee going forward. But before I do that, I would like to just say to Roy and to Clive. Thank you very much for coming, and actually your input on that meeting was really valuable. So thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. The money that we need is just to readjust the neighbourhood plan as it is at this moment in time. And I won't go into it now until we have the closed session, because I think that's important to understand why we've got to go that way. And if we do it in the closed session, unfortunately, you know I hate closed sessions, and I would normally vote against every closed session that we have, but in this instance I'm afraid I'm going to have to vote for it. So that to me, I think we should discuss it really in closed session and then vote maybe after for the extra money. I don't know, it's up to you.
It was exactly what I was going to suggest, that actually I think the order here is wrong.
Okay.
I think we need to have that discussion.
I will explain the order. It looks a bit odd because there is one other thing that we're discussing in closed session that's totally unrelated.
Well, could we not discuss that bit first, then the neighbourhood plan bit, and then go back to this question about spending extra money?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not inconceivable that following the discussion that we have, there might be an issue around whether we should be spending the additional money.
Okay. Yeah. So we're parking that one then until we've had that discussion.
Do them the other way around.
So, yeah. So in that case then, at this point, that in view of the special and or confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, it's advised on the public interest that the public be temporarily excluded and they are instructed to withdraw.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Oh, do I? So we've got
Bring
to,
him, by the way.
Do you want me to withdraw, Chair?
I think probably. Don't we?
Well,
I'm never sure.
considering Phil was at the meeting where everything was discussed,
I want
I
work
just
with
don't
you,
know.
Terry.
But
Whatever you want.
whatever you
discuss
decide is
the
going to be an
OTC
open.
thing first.
Do we let's, before we do that, do we need to,
Yeah, you need
I need a
to-
proposal that we close the meeting, which, so Councillor Chappell's proposed it, Councillor Chester I think has seconded it, if I saw, so, and those in favour, so yes, we're all in favour. Okay. Right. Okay, great, so thank you. So having discussed the item relating to expenditure for additional sense of the plan, there is a proposal which is
to approve the expenditure of £6,320 to be taken from general reserves for additional work to the sustainability appraisals and for redrafting the neighbourhood plan.
okay, so I can have a proposer for that then.
I'll propose it.
Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Peel, in favour. Yeah, so that's everyone unanimous. Good.
Can I just make one more point? I would like to say thank you very much for voting for this tonight, because I think it's important that we all stick together.
Okay, next few items are just to receive the minutes. So we're receiving minutes from the Planning Committee held on the 5th of March. So again, unless anyone has any
Unless anybody's got any
clarifications.
queries.
And the next one is to receive the minutes from the Estates Management Committee held on 26th of February. And the next one is to receive the draft minutes of the Personnel Committee meeting held on 12th of March. I will just mention at this point that you will see from those minutes that Emma and myself were interviewing for a new role within the team, and we were given authority to make an offer if we saw a suitable candidate. There were some excellent candidates, and the intention is now to move to make an offer, and we'll let you know how that goes. And then the last few items are correspondence for information. One was to receive the employment law update, and I have to confess the second one I did have to check the date, and we were already in April because we received a letter from the British Racing Association regarding pedestrian sign distances. I don't know if we have any meters
I've
in
never
Oval.
seen anything like this before, so I just thought I would put it on the agenda.
I was
So
fascinated.
it's not something that we get involved in anyway, but I've never seen any.
Well, anyway, in case you're aware, the British Weights and Measurement Association will be on your back if you put a sign in meters. I did think about the Ondressy sign in the car park. It's in kilometres, so we may be in trouble.
Yeah.
And I was also interested to see that Kate Howie was a patron of that wonderful association. Anyway, that gave me a smile anyway. So that was it. So, other than any other relevant matters for report only, that brings us to a close.
Can I ask where we are with the putting up of the bunting, bearing in mind that the Festival of Music and Drama starts on the 30th of March.
It won't be up for then. It may be, let's say, but at the moment I am struggling to get Northamptonshire Highways to reply to my requests. But I've been assured today
With
that
them.
I should get something next week.
Right, okay, thank you.
Anyone got anything else? No. In that case, we'll bring the meeting to an end. A few minutes to spare. 9:25.
Didn't think you could do that, did you?